All right, good morning, everybody. Hope I had a great week. Welcome to Friday. Today, we're going to talk about something new, something more fun, easy to understand. We're going to look at what's called a recommendation engine, which would be a brand new tool that each market will be able to start using on their end. We'll get to that here in just a minute. But I want to make sure that we talk quickly about the different options that are out there when it comes to programmatic, especially on the display side. You know, when we talk to clients and a lot of our fulfillment partners, a lot of times they're stuck. They seem to get stuck between which digital tactic to recommend. Should we do addressable geofencing? Should we do behavioral, contextual display? Should we do native? What type of tactics work the best for what type of client, what type of actual category? So let's look at, first of all, the different types of display advertising that is available. One, I think everyone knows and have seen display ads pretty much anywhere you go on a mobile website or desktop or tablet. You're pretty inundated with display ads all the time. So it's still out there. We're much more fans of responsive ads and image ads with motion called GIFs. But responsive ads, those are really famous with the Google Display Network. You'll basically put in a few different images, a few different headlines and descriptions, and Google will try to match the best headline, image, and description for responsive ads. I believe most people understand what geofencing is and geofencing ads and how that works. And another one is retargeting, or sometimes referred to as remarketing. That's when someone comes to your website or client's website, and then they will be served display ads via a cookie on their browser that will follow them around for 30 days. And then native ads. Those are ads that, and we'll look at these here in a second, but these are ads that you'll basically not realize are ads a lot of times. There'll be sponsored content and something that you're reading about, and then you may or may not see where it says sponsored content, but it's basically inside of an organic piece of content. And then everyone also knows, I believe, about social ads in general. But how do you target with display? There's a lot of different ways to do that, but let's look at really the most common ones when it comes to display targeting. Number one is interest-based. That's where if anybody goes to myactivity.google.com on your cell phone or PC or tablet and then start looking at other tracked activity by Google, it's pretty shocking the amount of information that Google has on us. You know, Google bought out Waze, and your GPS is tracking you, your websites, your apps. It's pretty good targeting on the advertising standpoint. So after interest targeting, there's also contextual, what people are reading about, searching about, contextual targeting. And third is topic targeting. Let's look at what these ads are, and then we're going to look into how to recommend the right one for the right client. So with image ads, let me first ask this question, and I'll have Maggie look at the chat box, and let's see if anybody gets this answer correct. So no searching, no going on the phone and looking the answer up, but does anybody know what year was the first display ad? What year was the first display ad? Let's see if we have any guesses about that. 2007 is a guess by Stephanie. Anybody else? No searching, no cheating. Any other guesses? 2007, good guess. 2007, anybody else? It goes back a little bit further than that. Heather says 1990. Very, very close. 1994 was the world's first display ad. And what's crazy about it is look at that click-through rate. An amazing 44% of people who saw it clicked on it from the first generation of display ads. Now that's mind blowing. Like, can you imagine getting that type of a click-through rate today? All right, let's look at some traditional display ads. I think we've all have seen these. They consist of, like, the 350, about 200, 160, about 600, all the big major sizes, the leaderboard, skyscraper, landscape. As you can see, these are ones that you probably already know and have seen. These are the responsive ones that we were talking about just a minute ago. They have multiple text headlines, descriptions, and images, and Google's going to look to try to find the best combination of all three of those when they're doing targeting for you. So those are called responsive. Retargeting, this is one that really, in my opinion, should be a part of every digital marketing campaign. When a client is spending money to bring people to their website in general, there is a lot of value in people that aren't just at the very bottom of the funnel. They're still in the game. They're still in that sales process. Don't ignore them. Retargeting and remarketing is designed to bring people back who have not converted yet. So that is called retargeting, or sometimes remarketing is how it is also, I guess, another connotation of that. Okay, now after that are native ads. Now, these are ads I talked about a second ago that sometimes you may not even realize that they're actually your ads. They're placed in the same style as the content on the website or email. And they usually just don't look like ads. You can see it down there at the bottom left. So that is also another option with display advertising. Another one would be social ads. I think these are probably pretty self-explanatory, but a lot of times Facebook can have really good success with conversions if you stay in Facebook. The challenge with a lot of display advertising is you don't know where they are in the actual funnel. To some degree, there's some better targeting with Facebook, and they do work really good if you keep the person inside of Facebook. So a lead form, for example, inside of Facebook has a much better conversion rate than when Facebook sends them outside of Facebook to the actual website. Discovery ads, a little bit newer, only about a year or two old. This is one of Google's properties. It's pretty interesting because you can get a lot of eyeballs for pennies on the dollar. It's a form of native ads, and they use a bit of artificial intelligence, as you can see, to really try to find and place the best display ads or responsive display ads as they can on all of the Google products, all search, all YouTube, their Gmail, inside promotions, everything. And you get a lot of eyeballs, but it's typically going to be pretty top funnel too. But there's always a purpose for things being discovered, and the discovery campaign is also associated to a degree with branding campaigns. And then finally on display would be geofencing. I think we all have a pretty good idea about what geofencing is, but we can go into more details about that in the future. But now we have a pretty general understanding of display products, and geofencing and I'm sure you have, when you're talking to a prospect or a client, and you're doing your client needs analysis, and you're asking potentially and hopefully the right questions, and we're going to look at some of those here in a second. But once you know what their target demographic is, their target audience, what an ideal customer looks like for them, how they measure success, their expectations, once you were able and are able to uncover a lot of that information, then you got to start thinking about, and it can be a challenge because there are so many different options out there with online marketing and targeting. How do you find the right ones? How do you cut through the clutter and figure out, well, should I do a certain percentage on geofencing, a certain percentage on display native ads, a certain percentage on contextual? There's a lot of thought that goes into that, or should. So it takes a lot of research, or you can have a ton of client data, campaign data, and artificial intelligence to help you do that. which we're about to get into in just a second. So when it comes to proposals, we do a lot of proposals for a lot of our fulfillment partners, and they're all done by hand. And I've been looking for this answer for some time, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek of it today. But it's been a challenge in general for anybody to effectively combine offline marketing, such as radio or television or out of home, with online, and being able to have a comprehensive plan that has data associated with a recommendation of looking at this is what has worked in other markets, and based off of your input, which would be the user inputting things like client goals, where their target location is, competitors, budget. What you're going to see in a minute is the recommendation engine is going to give you a very good starting point of what other campaigns and clients have used successfully in other markets. So it's going to be based off of user input on how much data you have on the client, but then it'll also spit out a complete proposal which incorporates radio with online together, which we'll get into in just a second. But before we do, before you can really get to that point to get a recommended proposal of tactics and strategy, you're going to have to ask the right questions to the client. You're going to have to be able to get some data back from them. You're going to have to figure out or ask the question to the client, how do you measure success? What is it ideally we need to do? Is it phone calls, form submissions? Is it foot traffic in the store? You start to kind of break down the right CNA questions that can really integrate offline and online. Because what we see as an agency, you have offline salespeople asking a lot of CNA questions specifically related to offline marketing. Nothing wrong with that. You see a lot of people that sell just online asking a lot of just online CNA questions. But as marketers, and really integrated marketers, we need to be able to find out and ask the right questions that give us the answers we need to give them a full media plan. So let's look at, before we do, somebody please do me a favor and type in the chat box a couple of, or a question, a good CNA question to ask a prospect, to ask a client. What are you using now? What types of questions do you ask your prospects and clients to get a possible solution to that problem? What are some different things that you have asked or are asking to your prospects and clients? Besides, obviously, their business name. A good one. Yeah, who is your, and that's actually a really good one, because a lot of times when you ask a client or a prospect, who is your biggest competitor, they usually are going to say it's ABC company. And it might be, but when you actually do a Google search, they may not have a clue that their number one competitor in reality is Ben Franklin Plumbing, for example. They're the ones that are on page one, option one, for 35 keywords while you're on page two. So while you think this competitor has been your competitor for the last 10 years, you've been passed by about 6 more. So great question. Or some others? You're looking for foot traffic, or you're looking for phone calls. It's a great one because those are completely two different things. You can do a campaign geared toward driving phone calls and form submissions. There's also campaigns you can do to drive people to foot traffic or foot traffic attribution. That's a great one.
Nikki asked about the strategy.
Nikki asked about what strategies you currently have to bring in new customers now. These are all good questions. Let's look at some ones that we've actually compiled that we tend to get a good deal of info to make decisions on what we're going to do with a media plan, what percent offline, what percent online, etc. So leading up to the proposal, before you can get to a recommendation, is all about asking the right questions. One we just talked about for a minute, what are your goals for our project or for this marketing cooperation? But you want to get specific. What are the goals? Is it to increase your overall top of mind awareness of your audience? Is it to increase phone calls or e-commerce online? Have them tell you. Now, I love this one, and obviously you can reword some of this to the language that you use more often, but you get the point of it. What is your definition? And you don't have to use the word project. It's more of an agency term. But what is your definition of a campaign being successful to you? Is it people talking about, hearing about you from the radio? Is it about the cash register ringing up more receipts? Is it about more traffic to your website? Is it about more requests for estimates? Because a lot of times you'll find people that sell online marketing, especially with my old company when I was a manager over there. It really was an assumption by the salesperson in general about how the client would define that. Oh, well, we generated 45 calls for you. I don't want phone calls. I'm booked out for 3 weeks. I'm not looking for phone calls. I'm looking for people to fill out a form to get on our calendar for an estimate. So you want to make sure that you understand how the client or prospects define success of that campaign. This is one I love to ask as well. Try to get as specific as you can, and I like to use the word key there on purpose. What key difference do you want your audience to know about your business when comparing you against your competitors? And for God's sake, don't say you're family run and you have the best service. Make them tell you more than that. Like, what is that key difference? Is it your guarantee? Is it the fact that you've been in this market for 25 years? Is it the fact that you are the highest rated estate planning attorney in the state of Florida? That would be one. Obviously, one that you'll want to get for offline and online. But what is the real target audience? Has it changed over the last 10 years? Has it increased? How about your secondary audience? Describe to me that ideal customer that shops in the store, but also describe to me what that customer looks like shopping at home. Are they different? Are they the same? The next one will really get them talking. How do people currently find your company on the internet? That's a really good open-ended question to really see how much they know about their own web presence, which usually is going to be very little. But you can imagine the kind of answers that you'll get when people actually try to answer this question. Well, they find me on Bing, or they find me on Google. Well, how on Google? And then you get them actually start looking themselves, and their eyes start to squint. Well, I thought I was here. Or they assume they're doing well because they might show up in the map listing because they're right there in their own neighborhood. But you'll get a lot of different answers that will tell you how much they really know and how much they are aware of their own web presence. Now, another one is one that gets ignored almost all the time by all of us, and it is, what type of relationship do you have with your customers or audience now? Are you speaking to them monthly through an email, update, or newsletter? Are you speaking to them on social media? Do you invite them to come back to do business with you? Have them talk about that. Then you get into conversations about retention rate, what is the lifetime value of a new customer. You get them really thinking about that customer base they have right now. And we don't, in general, as business owners and companies, we don't do enough to keep our own current customers engaged. So by having them focus on them, the new business that comes in at our efforts will just be extremely easier gravy for them, so to speak. What actions do you want your audience to take after seeing your content or after hearing your content? What do you want them to do? It's a great one to ask because it really circles back to their expectations too. But what do you want them to do once they've heard your ad or seen your ad online? Do you want them to call you or to drive up to your location? Do you want them to request an estimate? What is it you want them to do? Because what they're probably are going to do is search you online. If they heard about you on the radio from this campaign, more than likely, they're going to search you online, either looking for your phone number or to read about you. So that's going to increase your brand awareness. So you want to have that conversation as well. Now, one that we should all ask all the time, but let's talk about your marketing budget. Because right now, we haven't talked about a single product. We haven't really led them towards anything that we're selling because we're going for the entire budget. We're not going for an initiative. We're going for their entire marketing budget. If we were able to help you with these goals, with that right audience, and how you measure success would be tracked through the dashboard very clearly every step of the way. What is your overall marketing budget this year? Well, what current marketing tactics or metrics do you currently track, if any? And they may tell you, we don't track anything. They may tell you, well, we track phone calls that come in, which they usually don't do a very good job with. We track the total number of jobs that we have on the board. We track the total number of estimates. We track the total number of users on our website. We track the total number of e-commerce sales each month. There's several things that they could track, but this will give you an idea also of what's important to them to track. What's your timeline and delivery of this project? So if you need 20 jobs per day booked as a plumber, and currently you have 17 jobs booked per day as a plumber, we need to deliver 15 more jobs per week to get your average to 20 jobs per day. How long do you give us to help get you there? It's not going to be a month. It'll take more than 30 days. We want to give a very comprehensive plan to you where we show and map this out for you. But a lot of clients will want that instant gratification. So you want to have that conversation about, if we're able to do this, what time frame are we looking at that we can talk about where we are with the success? And usually we're going to ask for 6 months to a year. A year is the default. And then a couple more final ones. In regards to your experience with digital marketing, what do you think has worked for you in the past and what hasn't? Now, why is that a good question? Think about that one for a minute. In regards to your experience with digital marketing, what do you think has worked for you in the past and what hasn't worked for you in the past? You're going to get so many different answers, and some of them are going to be negative. I tried this and it did not work at all. Or I tried Yelp and nothing happened. I tried search engine marketing, nothing. I did this. You're going to get a good bit of that. And typically the reason they didn't have good success, and there's a lot of different reasons why, is these questions probably weren't asked. And if they were asked, more than likely they weren't adhered to. They weren't set up correctly. But you want to find out what they've done before. You want to find out if they did do a display campaign, what expectations do they have for that? How long do they run it for? There's so many different reasons we all know why marketing on any platform or media can or cannot work. But that will give you a lot of intel as to when you start to put together a game plan for them as to their expectations, what they have seen work before. And that'll help eliminate a couple of objections when you do go to do your proposal. You go in with just a display campaign for geofencing, and that's the one thing we didn't ask him or her, and they had an absolutely disastrous experience with it. You're going to have a much lower closing rate. So you want to find out if they have any experience in the past. And then, obviously miscellaneous, anything that you want to add on there, but is there anything else that you can tell us that we should know before start working together on a potential project together? Okay. Anybody have any other questions that they would like to add or throw out that we can add to this? So when we send this to your market pages, we can add some of these questions as well. Is there any other questions that anybody thinks we could add to this list that might help benefit everybody? All right, let's go ahead and jump in to the recommendation engine that I was just talking about a second ago. All right, let's take a look at something. So inside, and this is more of a tease right now, next Friday, which will be our 12th, I believe, our 12th and final for this series, onboarding discussion on Fridays. We will have our ongoing digital updates, and you'll be getting plenty of these recording. And then once we start to develop the new content, we'll do our next series, date to be determined in the next few weeks. But next Friday, we're going to go in a good bit of detail on this as well. But today is a snapshot and overview. And this is the product that I've been talking about for a little bit. What we're going to look at, and each market will have their own license to this as well. We already have it set up for you. We're in the final stages of building out templated automatic proposals that integrate radio and integrate the digital products for you. And then there'll be some customization, and you'll be able to do some stuff too, like add station slides in here. But let's jump in and take a quick look at it. So today, this is not officially going to be released today, but in the next week or so, this will be given access to the markets. But let's add, I'll take the Harrisonburg client right here. This client I found on page 2. So I did a Google search for plumbing contractors in Harrisonburg, and I ended up on page 2 right here, and I found somebody right. Where were they? Let me find them again. Right here. So about midway down on page 2. So this is one that I would go after as a prospect. If they're on page 2 with a website like this, they are definitely not dominating their online presence anywhere. So let's say you got a CNA with this client. You ask those right questions, and now you're ready to come back and figure out what game plan is best. So we will add a new client here, and what was that? That was BUR. It's going to find them typically for just what? Plumbing? All right, I recognize that is the address. So it's typically going to find anybody, any client, any prospect, any business that has a Google Map listing. And that's what it's doing right here. So you select it, and it's already going to try to figure out what is the actual industry and category. And if that's not correct, you can always go in and change it. That looks like it's probably going to be the closest one, it looks like. Let's make sure that's right. Yep, looks like it's probably the closest one. Okay, all right. So once you have that, it'll start looking through the Google Map listings for their logo for you, which you can just select and incorporate too. Now, if it's not there, and sometimes you're going to find clients on page 2 or 3 that are not there, you can always go and just upload a new logo. I'm just going to pretend that's theirs and select it. And then once you have that, next, it's going to confirm that this is their business location, and that is all you have to do. So once you have your client in there, now it's time to create a campaign. Now, as you can see, there are 2 different options. One is called a campaign wizard, and the other one is a custom campaign, giving you complete and full control. If you know what you want to actually do and how you want to do it with the tactics, you can go to custom campaign and create it yourself. The campaign wizard is more than likely where I would recommend that you spend most of your time. So as you start to do that, you want to give it a name, what you would give any proposal or a campaign name. I'll call this one Burgess Plumbing Marketing Third Quarter 2021. Now, pay close attention to this part right here. So here, this is what's going to help the recommendation engine decide on tactics for you. Gone is the time you have to spend on trying to figure out what to do. I know what they need. I know what their expectations, but I don't know what products. I don't know what to do. That's where this is going to be a lifesaver for a lot of people. So you've done your CNA. This is why you're at this level. Okay, so you're looking at these options that we have here for goals. Are you looking for, is the primary goal, and you can choose more than one, but only one primary goal. Is the primary goal for ad engagement, general brand awareness to drive phone calls? Is it a special event? Is it reach? Is it lead gen, which is what that really should start with, is lead gen first. Is it store visits, foot traffic? Is it a web purchase? Is it website traffic? For this one, I'll go phone calls. Start date, we'll start it on Monday. Okay, yep, we'll just do Q3. All right, now the budget, this is going to be the budget over these dates here. It's not going to be a monthly budget. It's going to be the budget for third quarter. So you've done the CNA, you've asked the question about the budget, so now you have an idea of how much that you want to present for. And you can go all the way through the end of the year or put in a custom date as well. So we're asking for 6 months. At this point, I'm going to say we're going to look for $50,000. Well, I'll go $20,000. Now I'll go $50,000. So 3 months. 3 months. Well, no, these are 6 months now. Okay, so at this point, you hit next. Now, all the different options for targeting are going to populate right here, and there'll be much more being added. But you can go in here with your pencil, and you can check the demographics that you actually do want, the key ones that you do want or do need.
So this is going to be the demographics that are recommended based on the category that you chose. So you can see with this one right here, some of the age ranges are unselected, and so that's based on the industry that we said that this plumber was part of. And then you can go back and customize them based on what you've learned from your client.
All right, thanks, Maggie. And again, these are, as Maggie pointed out, these are defaults from the category, from like thousands of different campaign data that's been built into the system. So but you have the right to override the recommendations too, as you can see. So you can add to it, you can take away. But again, these are the ones that are most typically used for the categories. Income levels, I mentioned interest earlier. You can see the different types of interest that you can add, you can take away. If this is for a plumbing campaign, there may not be a whole lot that you need to do in this section to drive just phone calls. But you can spend a good deal of time in going through this, look at their occupation level. And again, there'll be a lot more that we're adding because we're using different platforms with different companies. different DSPs as we do our targeting, but these are some of the very good defaults that are in here. So now you have the location, or now you have the interest level. You can also target when it comes to geo-targeting. You can also do a few different options with targeting. You can do it by the city. You can do it by zip code. And yes, you can do it with bulk zip codes. If you have 20 different zip codes, we can bulk upload them or copy and paste them in here. You can also do it by location and radius. You see it found the client right here. You could do a 10, 15-mile radius around their location if you want. Or again, you could do it by city. You could do it by DMA. I'm going to go ahead and do it by DMA of Harrisonburg. Perfect. This will be the default for right now. All right, next. All right, so automatically, you're given the initial recommended products that fit the client's business goals. So you see a few different ones. You see search marketing, custom targeted display. You see CTV, OTV. You see email marketing. Now, these are going to be the products that are recommended specifically for that campaign. If I were to say, for example, reach, brand awareness, radio will be at the very top. And for the managers on the call, once we have our call with you, you guys will have complete control and authority of the hierarchy of where you want those to actually be overridden, if you do want them to be overridden. For example, we could have, display and radio always recommended each and every single time, no matter what. You could have it where you have it currently where it is with the defaults of the campaign history plus 15% with display, plus 20% with radio. And then you will get a breakdown of what that looks like. Now, at this point, where you are now is that you're looking at the products it recommends. If you agree with them, you hit set budget allocation. If you want to change it, it's as easy as crossing it out and adding another product. It's going to be really slow, isn't it? Okay, we'll come back. You can add another product right there. But if you accept them the way that they are, set budget allocation. And as you can see right here, okay, and then on this page, you have the access and the power to change by going to manual, or you can simply just drag it. Well, not as much on page search, but we do need to put more on display, and it's going to reallocate all of this for you. So as you drag one of these, it'll take it away somewhere else. Okay, so once you can take the recommendations given to you by the system, or you can override them. And again, you can add, I don't know why that's not populating yet, but I'll show you another example here in just a second. So once that is done, you'll want to go over here to add campaign details, because as we saw earlier, there's a lot of things you can do with display. So as of right now, it's being listed as custom targeted display, but you have the authority and the ability to look as to which display option you feel is best for that. So with this client, for example, we have 22,000 for display. So I'm going to put 3,000 in geofencing, and it'll start taking the budget out for you. I'm going to put 6,000 for remarketing, and I'm going to put contextual 6,000 too. Okay, so once you have that, and you can override any of this. Your CPMs are actually already built in as with your pricing, but they can also be changed and overridden by a manager as well. And then once that is done, our final step that we'll be coming out with next week is going to be the overall big picture and proposal. I'll give you a quick sneak look at where we are with it. But once you've done just those few steps, you hit create presentation, and of course it'll bring in the client's information and logo. You will have your information here, all the summary and details. You will have your product pages in here about why geofencing, why contextual, the audience size that it's pulling from for this location, for the DMA that we recommended for the client, as you can see. You will also have the summary, and you'll also have the breakdown of exactly how we're doing it. And you see right here that the ones that we chose, site retargeting and contextual, fall under targeted display. So it's all broken down, a summary, and then your product pages will be in there, and then you can actually use that as your proposal. Now, let me show you how radio can easily get in here too, because we can make a default for all of them. I'll just use Leisure Depot again here for a second and take a look at this one. All right, primary goal, let's do general brand awareness, and let's also go for reach. Let's do the same thing. We'll go June through the end of the year. Do it manual or right there, and we'll go 50. Next. Well, I won't spend our entire call actually going through and changing this the way I would if we were actually doing the actual buy. But as I look through some of these outdoor enthusiasts, shopping addicts, soccer moms, a lot of those are pretty close and accurate. I would change a bit of this, but some of these are actually pretty good and accurate to the demographic that they actually are wanting to actually go after. But again, you add, subtract, you have the full power to change all that targeting. But this will also let us know when putting orders through many more details on how to set this up properly. So you also see you can target by city, by zip code, by county. We have North Charleston, but I'm going to do the DMA of Charleston, get the entire area. Perfect. As you see, number one recommendation is broadcast radio. Now, our thought is to put the sub products under radio as the actual stations. So you'll have the ability to put your stations in here as well. For the products, we recommend as your full media partner that's going to handle your entire marketing budget. Broadcast radio, we're going to talk about targeted display, OTT, search engine optimization, which is SEO, and email marketing. You do not see paid search in here. You don't see a couple of other tactics in here. But for the goals that you're looking to accomplish and based off of thousands of other home decor, home improvement categories, these are the products that are going to drive brand and reach for your location. Set up budget allocation. This is where you have complete and control. We're taking all those TV dollars, so we can load that up in OTT. We can bring radio up here with OTT as well. And again, so as you're going through this, you could take the suggested budget allocation or have complete and full control over it by dragging it back and forth by each product. Once that's done, you go in to add your campaign details, and you are done. So in here, this is where you would go in and add your details. If you have details, if you wanted to do a certain thing for like category contextual, this is 1400. I'll just add that right here. And then for SEO, you have your options with the local, regional, and national. And the regional is the one with higher number of keywords, but you see it allocated a lower amount because it's assuming it needs just the basic local one. Once that's done, save, and all you got to do is click on Create Presentation, which, by the way, yours are in the process for each market, and then we will be sending out an email to the managers about sending us a couple of station slides as well. So please be on the lookout for that. And then once you have the presentation, you're going to be able to show a true integrated offline and online marketing campaign and proposal. It'll be delivered via PDF. It'll be delivered via what you're looking at, which makes it more interactive, or it can be delivered with a URL. So several different options in which you'll be able to give to the client, and we can also add a signature page. So that is a brief first look at what you guys will also have access to. But these numbers from the recommendation engine aren't pulling arbitrarily. They are actually being pulled by so much campaign data and history, along with where the goals can influence which product is recommended at the highest level. So you saw from that first one, radio that was brand awareness and reach. And again, when we talk with the managers, we could manipulate some of those recommendations based on what your market needs are, but keeping in mind that the majority of the scoring system for the recommendations are going to come from campaign histories of other clients and accounts as well. All right, so I will send out all of this deck, or I'll put it on the actual resource page for everybody in all the markets today. Once we have that uploaded, we will also be sending out a couple of emails to the managers to get those slides and log in. And then next week, we will be going through this in more detail with the final look of the station slides, and we'll also have a couple of training sessions after that with some other content that you can do on demand of learning it. All right, well, I hope everyone has a great weekend. I hope you guys had a great week this week, and we will see you and talk to you next week.
Thanks, Matt.
That's on